Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
And we made it here for the weekend on the Sports IQ. Glad you're with us. And, man, we have got lots to talk about. We'll talk a little money later on. You know, I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, I used to, dream about, like, owning my own baseball franchise. And I would, like, put up signs on the fence of my grandfather's backyard before my buddies and I would play wiffle ball. And the garage was our version of the Green Monster. And if you hit it on the roof but didn't clear, it was still in play with the wiffle ball. And, I mean, all that. We're going to talk later about franchise fees and that kind of thing. And the money that is now such a pipe dream that you better go and get your MBA in finance and go to Wall Street and then go start your own private equity fund. And maybe you can think about, I mean, the money is getting stupid. And we'll talk about that a bit later because it's a big thing of not just that. Also, one thing you could do is you could become a really good college football coach or a good football coach overall and make 8 figures a year. We have someone who just joined that club. That's coming up as well here in a moment. Great guest as we get ready for the college football weekend. Adam Lichtenstein joining us on Sentinel, talking about Miami and Louisville in the ACC. Virginia right now. Look at that. The Cavaliers are ranked. Ryan Wiener talking about their big matchup, and Michelle Gardner from the Arizona Republic as Arizona State, last year's Big 12 champ, gets ready to take on the new powerhouse in the Big 12, Texas Tech, 2024 versus 2025. How will that matchup play out? We'll talk with her here in just a few moments as we get ready again for a big weekend. Let's start with some headlines right now in baseball. In the National League, it's starting to feel like the Dodgers are once again going to be the class of the field. LA taking a commanding 3-0 lead in this ALCS with a 3-1 win over the Brewers Thursday night. Tommy Edman hitting a tie-breaking single off the hard-throwing rookie Jacob Misiorowski in a 2-run sixth proved to be the margin of victory. Tyler Glasnow pitched another great game, this time going 5 1/3, gave up 3 hits and 1 earned run. The difference about this game was the Dodger bullpen, which had been shaky at best, but shut down the Brewers in spectacular fashion. The Dodger pen pitching 3 2/3 innings, giving up just 1 hit and no walks to close things out. So LA now has 4 chances to close out this series and become the first World Series champ in 16 years to make it back to the Fall Classic for a chance at a repeat. Talk about parity in baseball. In the American League, remember when Dorothy was trying to get back to Kansas and said, there's no place like home? There's no place like home. There's no place like home. Well, in this series, there's no place like the road, baby. 4th straight game in the ALCS, the road team finding a way to get a victory. The Blue Jays have now evened this series with Seattle by virtue of an 8-2 win. 41-year-old Max Scherzer, love this guy. He had been the forgotten man for this Toronto team. Hadn't pitched since the end of the regular season, but last night, Scherzer was angry, and he did what Vince Scully said about Kevin Costner's character in the movie For the Love of the Game when he said, tonight, I think he might be able to use that aching old arm one more time to push the sun back up in the sky and give us one more day of summer. Scherzer was not no-hitter great, but he didn't have to be. He gave the Jays 5 2/3 innings of solid ball, allowing just 3 hits and 4 walks, gave up a couple of runs, but he earns his 8th postseason win, his first since the 2019 World Series for Washington against Houston, making his 500th Major League start, regular season and postseason combined. Scherzer becomes the oldest pitcher to start a postseason game since Jamie Moyer was 45 years old with the Phillies back in the 2008 World Series. Game 5 coming up here Friday night, still in Seattle. Bryce Miller of the Mariners taking on Kevin Gausman for the Jays, and then they'll shift to Toronto for Game 6 and maybe 7. NFL, speaking of pushing the sun back up in the sky, it was a battle of 40-somethings in Cincinnati. Lots of liniment to be had. 40-year-old Joe Flacco trying to revive the Bengals, facing a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who tried to give the Steelers their first 4-game winning streak since the end of the 2023 season. Flacco, again, age 40. The Bengals picked up just over a week ago from Cleveland, which, again, strange, a division rival. You can talk about that amongst yourselves. He was fantastic Friday night. 31 of 47 completions, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks to lead the Bengals to the come-from-behind 33-31 win at ends Cincinnati's 4-game losing skid. They hadn't won since Joe Burrow went down with that turf toe injury. Rodgers, meanwhile, 23 for 34 for 249, 4 scores, but he was also picked off twice. Jamar Chase showing why he's considered one of the best receivers in the game, if not the best. 16 catches for 161 yards and a touchdown. Evan McPherson kicked 4 field goals, including the game winner with just 7 seconds left to send Bengal fans home happy for the first time in a month. Speaking of football, to the college game now for Penn State. Those fans thinking Curt Cignetti might leave Indiana to come back home to the Keystone State and be the Nittany Lions head coach and lead them to 17 wins in 19 games the way he's done it in Indiana. It ain't happening. Indiana shut that thing down in a hurry. The Hoosiers and Cignetti agreeing to terms on a contract extension that bumps his average annual pay by $3.6 million, adds another year onto the deal he signed last fall in season. 8-year contract, annual worth $11.6 million, runs to the end of the 2033 regular season. Cignetti, third highest paid coach now in college football, and says, I'll retire a Hoosier, and I think I believe him. Another big college football weekend coming up here, and joining us once again on the show, Adam Lichtenstein. Happy to have him, Miami Hurricanes beat reporter for the Sun Sentinel down there in sunny South Florida. Adam, good to see you again. Let's talk about this Miami team. Last time we talked, going into the season, we felt they had the pieces to be a dominant team in the ACC, if not the country. They've proven that so far here in the first half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me. I mean, through 5 games, they played very well. The offense has been solid, if not, crazy explosive. It's been good. And the defense has been playing pretty out of its mind for the better part of the first 5 games of the year, with the exception of maybe like the fourth quarter against FSU, where they gave up some points. But other than that, like they've been really good. They've proven themselves, particularly in the along the lines of scrimmage. And yeah, so far they're kind of just rolling. And the way the schedule looks the rest of the year, they should be in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, this is one of those teams we thought, and again, ACC, where okay, listen, of the four, maybe the how do I say this nicely, least competitive top to bottom. Not that you don't have great teams in the ACC, because you do, but you don't have the week in, week out. There are some points in this. Am I making sense? I'm trying to be fair here. I'm not saying Miami's had a great team or whatever, but just they have an easier run compared to a team like Alabama, where every team they play either is or has been ranked. We've talked about that before here on the show. What do you think makes this Miami team so unique compared to last year's team?
Well, I think what makes them unique just in general is like I said, their play along the line of scrimmage. I mean, Mario Cristobal, obviously former offensive lineman at Miami himself, like his big thing is he wants to build in the trenches. That, comes with recruiting, top offensive linemen, top defensive linemen, and also developing maybe guys who other coaches don't see the talent in. So, like, for example, at the top end, you've got guys like Francis Mauigoa, their right tackle, who's, top 10 prospect, 5-star guy who everyone wanted. He came in, he started right away. Like he has started every single game since he's been on campus. But then playing right next to him is Inez Cooper, who was a 3-star prospect who Cristobal recruited when he got to UM, who was outside the top 1,000. He was actually, I think, originally a defensive tackle who wanted to play offense. He comes in, and before his freshman year was out, he's a starter at right guard. And he's been now, I think, a 3.5-year starter for Miami, and he's become probably an NFL quality right guard who Cristobal and offensive line coach Alex Mirabal basically, crafted into a really good offensive lineman. Same thing on the defensive line, where you've got Ruben Bain, who is a highly touted 4-star recruit, who is now, terrorizing opposing offensive line. He was obviously good when he got here, but he's blossomed into arguably the best player in the country this season. And then opposite him, you have Akeem Mesidor, who was good when he transferred to UM out of West Virginia. But when he's been healthy, he's also been an excellent defensive end. So it's like all about building in the trenches and kind of dominating teams that way, being able to lean on them that way.
Yeah. You also, obviously, the big pickup at quarterback, you lose Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick of the draft. You bring in, though, Carson Beck, a guy, a 2-year starter for another elite program with Georgia, former 5-star prospect. I'm sure that made this transition easier in terms of bringing somebody of his caliber for this one season.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, there's no replacing Cam Ward. You can't really replace a number 1 overall pick.
Right.
But Carson Beck's done a really good job so far. He doesn't have like that magician-ness that Cam Ward has, where Cam Ward looks like he's going to take a sack and he just kind of gets out of it and completes a pass. Like kind of things like that, like escaping the pocket and then throwing 40 yards downfield for a touchdown. Carson Beck hasn't really done that so far. But what he has done is run the offense very well. With that offensive line in front of him, he has a ton of time to throw, go through his reads, and basically pick apart defenses that way. And with the exception of the Florida game, really, where they did a pretty good job holding him in check. Um, Beck's done a great job. He has tools. He has good playmakers at wide receiver. There's a good running game to kind of lean on when he needs to. And then, when teams come up to play that run game, the defense is sneaked up. He can toss a long pass to Malachi Tony or someone who has been really skilled at just getting open. And boom, that's a 45-yard touchdown like we saw against FSU. So, yeah, Beck's been a great addition. While the offense hasn't been as explosive as it was with Cam Ward, it's still been really good.
Yeah, no question about that. So now comes the Louisville team that, again, high expectations coming into the season, and now trying to get a victory here. A win for the Cardinals would be a signature win, one that they need here this season on their resume.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, while I do think Miami's going to win this game, I don't think Louisville's a good team. They can win this game, and they have strengths that they can deploy against the Hurricanes. Like I was talking to somebody yesterday in Louisville, and I was like, How does Louisville win this game?" Well, first of all, they are able to get past if they get past Miami's offensive line, which they're capable of. They have one of the best pass rushes in the nation so far this year. If they can get pressure on Beck, force him into some mistakes, and keep him from dissecting the defense, like they can slow down Miami's offense. And then the big battle I see, the big advantage I think Miami has in this game is that Louisville's offensive line has really struggled, and Miami's defensive front has been a terror so far. But there are ways to combat that. I was joking if I'm Jeff Brom, I'm just smashing the screen pass button and calling quick RPOs, quick passing plays to kind of spit the ball out and kind of negate the advantage Miami has on the defensive line. So there are ways they can win this game. They can break off some big plays. They have explosive players. So they definitely can win this game. I just think Miami has the advantage.
Yeah, 4-1 on the season. The one loss, the overtime setback at home against 24th ranked Virginia last week. In again an OT 30-27. And again, right now on their schedule, because Clemson is not ranked right now. No other ranked teams on their schedule. Same for Miami. How do the Hurricanes, who play at such a high level, have already had the huge win over Notre Dame in the opening night back on Labor Day weekend? How does this Hurricane team stay focused when they're going to be pretty heavily favored in every game until they get to the conference title game?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's probably the $1 million question going forward, because last year they got off to a great start. They were 9-0. And it's like, okay, great. They have smooth sailing to the playoffs, to the ACC title game in the playoffs. And then they lost to Georgia Tech on the road. They lost to Syracuse on the road after building a 3-touchdown lead. So it's like, okay, well, did you fix that? Are those issues still there? And I actually read about this yesterday. They talked kind of all week about, using the Nick Saban term, the rat poison, like not listening to their own praise, like from people outside the program, not listening to all the hype, just focusing on, each week, treating every opponent seriously, whether it's Louisville, whether it's Stanford, who's not a very good team coming up next week, like about staying focused and not getting complacent. And they learned what complacency can do last year. Because I spoke to when I was speaking to one player, I think it was Mark Fletcher. He said that a little bit of that creeped in last year. And, next thing you know, they lose 2 out of 3 and they're out of the playoff and they're out of the ACC title game and they're playing in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. So they have the experience of knowing they can't do that. Now, they've got 7 games left. They play 7 games in 7 weeks, so it's a busy schedule. No more bye weeks for them. They had 2 in 3 weeks because of a quirk in the schedule. They don't have any more bye weeks, so it's 7 straight weeks of football, 8 if they make the ACC title game. So, we'll see if they, practice what they preach, but they're saying the right things, at least right now.
Yeah. Last year, Georgia Tech had kind of its year that it kind of maybe figured things out, and they're on a great run heading into the game at Duke on Saturday. Is that the team maybe right now that scares you the most to face Miami in the ACC championship game? Should things play out that way?
Well, Georgia Tech has made a habit of making the Hurricanes look like fools the last couple of years. Miami doesn't play them in the regular season. They wouldn't face them until the ACC title game. And it's like, but if that's what happens, if that's how this plays out, talk about narrative. I mean, you look back 2 years ago, the should have taken a knee game. that was that derailed that season because Miami was undefeated going into that game.
Yeah.
I think they were 4-0 or 5-0. That derailed that season, and obviously it's still a thing that kind of hangs over at least the public's perception of Mario Cristobal. And then last year they go in there undefeated and they lose to Georgia Tech and they just kind of ran the ball, just pounded the rock against them. I think Haynes King threw like 6 passes, and they beat them and they stormed the field and everything. So Georgia Tech kind of has Mario's number the last couple of years. So that would be, that would definitely be, from my perspective as a journalist, like a very fun narrative going into an ACC title game, to finally put all that stuff to bed and put it to rest. And when the Hurricanes' first ACC championship, that would be a really cool storyline if that's what happens in the ACC title game.
Yeah, I didn't realize this will be their first ACC championship if they win.
Oh yeah, they've only played for the ACC title once, and that was in 2017, where they got beat up by Clemson.
Wow, I guess you just kind of lose track of time and when they change conferences. I didn't realize.
You would have thought, yeah,
yeah,
you would have thought they'd have won one by now.
Exactly. Speaking of Clemson, a team that struggled early, have they put things together in your mind? Are they still a team to be concerned about in the ACC and in the national picture?
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by Clemson because they've come back after obviously as bad a start as they would have could have imagined.
Right.
They've come back. I know that they've played well the last couple of weeks. I know they haven't really. They were playing some of the worst teams in the ACC. I know they beat up on Boston College last week, and cool. Good for you. But they still Clemson was my pick, my preseason pick for the national title. I thought they were loaded. They have not played up to that so far this year. But I think they are still talented. I know Cade Klubnik is banged up. But if he comes back healthy, he can be a very good quarterback. Whether they're still a factor in the playoff picture or the ACC title game, I think they are, but they're kind of they need help because they already have a couple of ACC losses, and you have Miami with none, Georgia Tech with none, Louisville with none or with one. Virginia, I think technically does not have an ACC loss because their loss to NC State was technically a non-conference game because why not? We'll just go with that. Technically, I think it was a non-conference game, so they don't have a conference loss. And then Miami doesn't play either of those teams.
Yeah.
Virginia and Georgia Tech, I don't think play. So the tiebreaker situation gets all kinds of weird. We were looking this up, I think, in the press box with FSU. The tiebreaker situation gets all sorts of weird, and you need a lot of things to break Clemson's way for them to get to the ACC title game. And they would need to, with 3 losses already and stuff, they would need to win the ACC to get into the playoffs. So, not a 0% chance. It's the ACC. Chaos reigns, but not impossible. But they need some serious help to get in.
Yeah, it is. But you bring up another point with these expanded conferences where you don't play everybody. We have several in every power conference. There's a situation where you may have several teams with 1 or 2 losses by the end of the season. Okay, now how do you parse those out if you're the committee to pick 12 teams to move on to the playoff? It's going to be interesting, and I'm sure you can guarantee people complaining because their team didn't get picked. It's Florida State all over again. It's just the way it is. It's not. What you can do about it.
Exactly. The thing is, and it's not a bad thing. So when it was a 14 playoff, the team that's 5 is always going to be upset, no matter what.
Yeah.
And if there's a 12-team playoff, the teams that are 13 or 14 are also going to be upset because the truth of the matter is the difference between the 12th team and the 13th team is probably barely anything. And I used to do this all the time. I would pick all county teams for high school sports down here, and people would be like, "Why is this player on second team? Why is this player on first team?" And I'm like, "Truth, the most honest answer I had is, it's close, and I just picked that player." Because they're maybe a little bit better, maybe. The difference between the first player on second team and the last player on first team is probably negligible. And that's just the way it is, But same thing when it comes to the playoffs. The difference between the 12th and 13th team is probably not going to be different. And if we expand to 16, the difference between 16 and 17 is not going to be that different. If we go to 28, it's going to be the same thing. There's always going to be an argument for a team on the bubble. And, the question is just your view of those teams and their schedule, their resume, their abilities, and kind of go from there and, pick the best 12 you can.
Yep. It's the way it is. It's not going to change. Someone's always going to be left out. Therefore, they'll be upset and rinse and repeat. Adam, always good to talk with you. Man, enjoy this ride right now. Undefeated Miami taking on Louisville. We'll talk with you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, so far it's been pretty fun.
That's right. Yeah, good times ahead. Make sure that they save some money in the budget for playoff travel, because that's going to happen. It looks like for you guys. I'd like to see once again Miami Hurricanes beat writer for the Sun Sentinel here on the Sports IQ. More to come after this.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
We were talking in ACC in a big matchup out of conference, actually. But boy, what a season Virginia's having right now. 19th in the country, 5-1, and taking on Washington State here this weekend. Joining us here once again on the show, happy to have him, is Ryan Weiner, Senior Associate for the Cavalier Daily. Ryan, welcome to Sports IQ.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk first about Tony Elliott. Usually if you don't get it done and in a ball game by year 3, they send you packing. What did the brass there at UVA see in him to keep him around and have trust in him here for year 4? And it's paying off now.
Yeah, well, I think they see a vision in him. And obviously, first off, his year 1 was very different from your average coach's year 1 with the tragedy that happened. They had to cancel the last 2 games of the season. That year 1 was not like your average coach's year 1. But I think they kind of saw the vision. They saw his recruiting. And now that resources are pouring in, I think you can see the results of that recruiting where they hit the transfer portal hard. They go and get a proven quarterback like Chandler Morris, who has been amazing. They go get a running back like Jamari Taylor, who has been putting up touchdowns left and right. And you see this offensive line has now been beefed up to the fact where they can lose multiple starters and you wouldn't know it. They've only allowed, I believe, 5 sacks through 6 games. The offensive line has been outstanding, and it's mostly due to the transfers they pulled in.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, it's one of those that it's a team that, and we all do it, right? We look first at what teams did last year, and that's where we start when we do our preseason picks and who's going to be the hot team, whatever. And because Virginia hadn't done anything in a few years since Bronco Mendenhall was there, they've kind of snuck up, I think, on everyone in the country.
Yeah, I think they're still being a little bit underrated by some people. People, they're looking at their strength of schedule, and that Florida State win has looked less good than it did when it happened. And so people are still underappreciating how good this Virginia team is. They're one Chandler Morris interception away from being an undefeated team. That game against NC State really could have been theirs if they wanted it. But I think this team is welcoming being underappreciated. They're welcoming lower expectations, and they're deciding to smash it every single step of the way.
Yeah, it's a team right now that, not that rankings mean anything, but that's the barometer we have, right? I mean, that's available to us to, in terms of to decide who is a better team and not. But Virginia, one of those with the quirk in the schedule, at the moment, no ranked teams on their schedule, and really probably the only one that could earn a ranking right now would be Duke. And that game is on the road. So really Virginia has a chance here to, if they can kind of stay focused and not slip up like they did against NC State, they could run the table and be a team that's 11-1, and that team that has to be talked about come November.
Absolutely. I think a lot about the SMU team from last year as a similar type of slate. They only played 2 ranked games the entire season, but they were 11-1, and they kept taking it game by game and ended up in the ACC championship game. This Virginia team is very similar. Obviously, there is that scenario where there's a 3-way tiebreaker with teams that are undefeated in conference play, and they might get hosed by that. But this team has been really good at taking it game by game. After the Florida State upset, Tony Elliott said we have 30 minutes to celebrate, and then we're done, we're moving on. And they've kept that mentality, and I think it's going to help them avoid those trap games, avoid those tough games on the road where they slip. And they've been really good at persevering through mistakes, so we'll see.
Okay, we just talked with Adam Lichtenstein, who is with the Florida Sun Sentinel, and he brought this up, that you mentioned the NC State loss, that somehow it does not include, it's not included, it counted as an ACC loss. You're right there in Charlottesville. Explain to us how that happened.
So actually, you were talking about Curt Cignetti earlier. Curt Cignetti did not want to play these Virginia Cavaliers. We were scheduled to play Indiana this year, and he unfortunately decided to pull that game in the series from the schedule. NC State had a similar thing happen. I'm not sure with who. And so the 2 teams agreed to play a non-conference match. They're doing the same thing next year, I believe. It's interesting, and I think it's great. It prepares you for ACC play without it counting on your ACC record.
So that's how it happened. So they really, so the conference schedule was set because they each had a sudden vacancy they had to fill. That's why they are playing not as an ACC team, ACC game.
Yeah, that's what happened. Very odd circumstances, but yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for explaining. Yeah, you're exactly right. It's funny that in all the hype over Signetti, we forget because they came out and smacked Illinois in their first game against a Power Four team. We forget about them. That what gave Virginia $500,000 not to play them and played like Kennesaw State instead or something, or everyone's forgotten about that, right? So.
Yeah, it's a little weird, especially because Signetti has played Virginia before when he was at JMU. He was here 2 years ago, and they won. You'd think with a much better team, he'd be okay with playing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's worked out well for him. He thumbed his nose at Virginia, paid $500,000, and he just got a raise up to almost $12 million. So, okay, he knew what he was doing, I guess. Well, back to this team. You talked about the new quarterback. What kind of difference has he made here for this Virginia team?
The big thing is composure. And you look at the quarterback last year, Anthony Calandra, who, all credit to him, he's having a great season at UNLV. But where Virginia struggled last year was when Calandra was under pressure, he would make really bad decisions. He would run out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage to take a sack. He would throw the ball into triple coverage, just praying that, Malachi Fields, who's now Notre Dame, would get that ball. Chandler Morris really knows exactly what to do. He's great with his legs, but he doesn't rely on them. He uses his legs when he needs to. And he really sees the field in a better way. You can see him go through his progressions, and he's always finding the right guy.
Awesome. Well, you've got a Washington State team coming in, one of the two teams left from the old Pac-12, just trying to find their way through right now. But look, they went last week to Ole Miss and almost knocked off the Rebels 24-21, a game that was much closer than anybody expected. They're only 3-3 right now, but what concerns you about this Cougars team coming in this weekend?
I mean, first and foremost, the fact that they were able to hang with Ole Miss in Oxford. Their quarterback, Eckhouse, has been pretty good the last couple games, I believe. And yes, Ole Miss in that game did kind of beat themselves a little bit with some turnover on downs, missed field goal, fumble in the goal line, stuff like that. But Virginia has done that before. I mean, you look at the Florida State game, Chandler Morris threw a couple of rough passes, and we're not, immune from mistakes. And Washington State seems to know how to take advantage of mistakes, which is what I'm a little worried about.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned as we were in the commercial break just now that it's a homecoming weekend there. What is the fan reaction to having Virginia being off to their best start in years?
I mean, first and foremost, the students are really into this. A couple years ago, I mean, it was pretty much just tradition that we were going to be down by 20 points at the half and we're going to go lead the game. And I think now, 2 years later, you see people are really excited to be at these games. They show up early. They're not leaving until the game's over. But even outside fans, the tailgate scene has been up rampantly. People are just they're buzzing. This is the most buzz this team has had since 2019, since that season with Bryce Perkins, Bronco Mendenhall. And there's a lot of talent around this team. People are really excited about it.
Yeah, I was going to say it should be just pretty cool. Has the fan? What is the coach saying about? Is the fan base there? I know we've seen other programs, Indiana, Illinois, where they haven't been winning. Now they're having success, trying to get the fans in the stands and to make some noise. Is that because a lot of times the tailgate party can be so much fun, fans forget to go inside. Is that been the problem in Charlottesville? They making it actually inside to root on the team and stay there the entire game.
So that used to be a problem a couple of years ago. People would love to show up to the tailgates and then not really go to the games because the product in the field wasn't really there.
Yeah.
Now I think Tony Elliott's actually had to respond to attendance questions pretty much his whole tenure because it's been a problem with Scott Stadium having 60,000 seats and the team not really being able to produce 60,000 fans. But I think he's kind of left those questions unanswered. He's really said, the fans will come if we put our product in the field, and they're doing that. And also credit to the athletic department, who's been putting on a lot of different ticket sales and different promotions to get people to fill those stands. I was telling you in the break, I mean, I'll see when I believe it, but they said ticket sales for this Washington State game have exceeded the Florida State sales. And maybe that is a product of the increased hype for this Virginia team.
Yeah. And homecoming, everything else, like you said, the other things that happening. You'd like to think homecoming you can get a bigger crowd. And when the team is 5-1 and ranked in the top 20, that should be the case. Looking ahead to you guys, you've got still 3 games left at home, including this weekend, 3 on the road, including next week at the sideshow that is North Carolina and Chapel Hill. And we were speaking to someone who's familiar with that program, one of the beat writers for UNC, and they were saying that even at ACC Media Basketball Days, people weren't talking ACC basketball. Everyone was talking about Bill Belichick. Were you there? Did you get caught up in that? Did you hear about that?
I was not there, but it feels like every day on social media, there's a news story about North Carolina that you just would not believe. The story yesterday about North Carolina's athletic director going to Saudi Arabia to look for funds. it just feels like there's no one's focusing on the product in the field. They're just focusing on what's going around with Bill Belichick, the athletic director, and there's always something going on.
Yeah, the girlfriend and the documentary, the show they're doing or something. And it's, so it's, boy, one of those that, you know what, you had the hype. And I think back to that opening week and the first drive went down for a touchdown and just everyone went gaga. Oh my God, it's Bill Belichick. And it has been a precipitous fall not just a fall, a stumble. It has been a fall off a cliff ever since then.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, credit to them because they said that Chandler Morris wasn't good enough for them, and so he came to Virginia. I will take it. They can have Gio Lopez and all the success he's producing for them, and we'll stick with our guys.
Exactly. Like anybody else you guys don't want, let us know. We're happy to take them.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, listen, we know you're really busy. We appreciate taking some time with us as we get ready for this game on Saturday. Man, enjoy homecoming weekend. Hopefully a big win for the Cavaliers, and we'll see what happens at the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you guys for having me on again. But for all those listening, don't sleep on Virginia football. They're here. This has been their best season in years. Tune in.
Yeah. I really think that, a double-digit win season's coming up. And again, I think in the conversation come November, let's see, once the CFP rankings first come out, where they are and how they progress as other teams may stumble down the stretch. Ryan, thanks so much. Ryan Weiner joining us once again, Senior Associate for the Cavalier Daily, as we get ready for number 19, Virginia, hosting Washington State coming up on Saturday. Okay, we've got more Sports IQ on the way.
Are you tired of your website making your business look bad? Is your current web developer dropping the ball? Let's face it, if your website isn't making you money, it's broken. Let Neon Rain create a website that turns your visitors into customers. Neon Rain has worked with hundreds of businesses across North America, building custom websites and applications with modern designs that are easy to update and work well on mobile devices. They can do it for you too. What sets Neon Rain apart? They actually deliver on their promises. Call today for a free consultation. 303-957-3092. That's Neon Rain at 303-957-3092. Or visit them at neonrain.com.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
More college football here this weekend. Big matchup in the Big 12. It is 7th-ranked Texas Tech at Arizona State. The Sun Devils, the defending Big 12 champion. Talking more about ASU, joining us right now. Back on the show again, Michelle Gardner. She is the ASU beat writer for the Arizona Republic. Michelle, let's start with coming off last season. Last time we talked was during the offseason. The big year last year, boy, the big second-half surge by the Sun Devils to get into the playoff. What has gone well and what has maybe not gone so well for the Sun Devils program here in the first half of the season?
Well, I think when you look back at last year's magical run, and that's the only way you can kind of describe it as magical, it was so unexpected. But when you look back at that, two things went right for ASU. One, they literally had zero injuries. I mean, they did lose Cam Scattaboo for one game. They lost Sam Levitt for one game. But they stayed relatively healthy the whole season from start to finish. And we all know that's very, very hard to do. The team's dealing with a rash of injuries right now to a lot of key players, starters. That's number one. And then number two is the schedule. I think the schedule favored ASU last year. Nobody expected Utah to be as bad as they were last year. Oklahoma State, everybody thought going into last year they were going to be a competitor, and they weren't. And when you look at their schedule top to bottom, I don't want to say it was easy, but it really kind of fell into their laps. They had, I think, 7 home games, and the schedule just favored into their lap. Now you turn the page this year, and you start out at Baylor, TCU at home. That's no gimme. Then Utah, then Texas Tech, Houston, who's much improved, and then you're going to Iowa State on the road. That's pretty brutal. I don't know that there's another team in the Big 12 that has that type of schedule. I know BYU late has a tough schedule, but ASU does have West Virginia and Colorado at the end of their schedule, but at the end of their schedule, it may be too late. So I think that those two factors, and ASU fans are not the most, I don't know what the word is, but they just don't get it. So everybody here is already off the bandwagon.
Oh,
and it's it's terrible. They lose to Mississippi State. People jump off the bandwagon. Oh my God, they lost to this terrible team, which isn't a terrible team. I think we've seen now. And then people got back on when they beat TCU, and then they go get pummeled at Utah. So now they're off again. So it's just a weird dynamic. And I don't think people that live here get it. And it's been one of those years. And again, looking at the injuries, Kyson Brown was probably going to be RB1 coming in, and he got hurt like 3 minutes into the Mississippi State game. And Kenny just said that he is going to be out at least until mid-November now. Mm-hmm. You're probably looking at redshirt him. Mm-hmm. Xavier Alford, starting safety, plays 2 games. He's probably out for the year. Mm-hmm. Ben Coleman, their top offensive lineman, had a very serious arm injury in the Utah game. He's now done for the year. And he was their best offensive lineman, and the offensive line was already struggling to begin with. So it's just been a combination of both those things, really.
Yeah, it sounds like, and I think that maybe also, the Mississippi State loss, I think, again, it was on the road. Anything can happen on the road. 24-20, a close loss. But the loss to Utah was one, I think, just the 42-10 blowout last week. Yes. I'm sure that the Boo Birds were out. What happened in that? You came back, bounced back, great win over a ranked TCU team, beating Baylor. And then it feels like just nothing went right in Salt Lake City last week.
Well, that's the thing. It's not that they lost there. It's the way they lost. Their run defense has been pretty solid. I think they were top 10 in the country in run defense. They just got gashed. I think that not having Sam Leavitt really threw everybody for a loop. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't want to say one player makes a difference, because that game was bad enough. They probably don't win with him either. But I think that kind of thing can throw your team into a mental loop. Mm-hmm. And it was just a strange thing the way it all happened. Sam practiced all week. Okay. So he practices all week. Wednesday, we get the injury report, and he's listed as probable, but they had like 15 guys listed as probable. Mm-hmm. Then Thursday, we look at the injury report, and he's doubtful. And we're like, what?
Oh,
where did it go from probable to doubtful in 24 hours?
Right.
So that basically sent all of us scrambling. We're like, what the heck happened there? Because he practiced. Okay. We didn't see anything in practice that would lead us to believe that there was an issue anywhere. Mm-hmm. He did have his right foot taped, but guys tape appendages all the time. We didn't think anything of it. So I think that, and especially that late in the week, for something like that to happen, that can throw your whole team for a mental loop. As experienced as this team is, I don't want to say it was panic, but that just can mentally set you back quite a ways. Yeah. And I think that was, and none of us really knew what the injury was. We had assumed that it was a lower body, as they call it, injury, just because he was throwing the ball pretty well in practice all week. So we kind of assumed, and also the way he gets out, scrambles and runs, makes plays with his feet. And he's taken some pretty bad hits. Just because, like I said, I think the offensive line's been the most disappointing unit in this team right now, is the offensive line. So he's taken some hits that he shouldn't have had to take. Mm-hmm. So I think we all kind of assumed it was a lower body injury. And then lo and behold, he's walking around in a boot. So we're like, okay, it's definitely that. So I think that Utah is also a very difficult team to play against, because they're just so physical. Mm-hmm. And I don't know this for sure, but just dealing with Sam and Kenny, I'm pretty sure that Sam wanted to play. He is a competitor. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that played with broken ribs last year. Who plays with broken ribs and a punctured lung? Okay. So my guess is he really wanted to play, and they basically sat him down and said, look, this is for your own good. If you get, and also the weather was horrible. So if he takes a very bad hit, okay, now you're not out a week, you're out a month. Mm-hmm. So I think they were kind of thinking maybe we can get by Utah without him. We certainly can't get by Texas Tech without him. So I think that those two things, I think it just, that kind of injury threw the team for a loop, happening that late. And again, I'm not saying Sam Leavitt plays and they beat Utah, but I don't think the game would have went down the way it did.
Right. No, that's fair. Absolutely. Michelle Gardner joining us here, Arizona State beat writer for the Arizona Republic. Big game here this weekend at home against Texas Tech. Red Raiders have had just a fantastic start to the season. One, will Sam be ready to play this Saturday? That's number one. And then number two, what else does ASU have to do to get this win over a Red Raiders team that's playing its best football right now?
Well, it looks like he is going to play. He's trending in the right direction. He's practiced with the first team. I think if there was any question, I think that Sims would have gotten some reps in practice this week. So I think he's going to go. As far as what they need to do, I think their best bet is ball control offense. And ASU is one of the best teams in the country in time of possession. And this is a strategy that worked against Baylor, where they kept Robertson on the sidelines. You need to run the ball, go 4 or 5 yards at a clip, have an 8-minute drive or a 9-minute drive and keep their offense off the field. Now, that's easier said than done. Texas Tech has an outstanding run defense. And I'm also worried about the offensive line. So I would say take time off the clock, and that's their best avenue to win. They can't afford to get in a shootout.
Yeah. No, they can't, because they offensively, they are putting up big scoreboard. There's no question about that. Well, Michelle, we appreciate your time as always. We know you're super busy. Huge game. Enjoy it, and we'll be calling again soon to talk more about the Sun Devils.
Anytime.
All right, thanks so much. Michelle Gardner once again joining us. She is the Arizona State beat writer for the Arizona Republic. It is Texas Tech, number 7 in the country, taking on Arizona State. That's a 4 p.m. Kickoff. That's 1 o'clock out there in the Valley of the Sun. All right, stay with us. More Sports IQ after this.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
We were talking at the top of the show about just the big money, and producer Tony joining us now. Tony, we're talking about, we love front office sports. We love ESPN, Yahoo, CBS, Sporting News, Sports Illustrated. We read all of them, of course, because we're sports junkies. But this is one that really caught our attention. So Jonathan Ledecky, who owns the Islanders, Front Office Sports had their inaugural asset class summit in New York. They put this in their newsletter and confirmed that on Thursday that Gary Bettman, the NHL commissioner, has set the price, saying that the minimum price for an expansion team will be $2 billion plus another $500 to $600 million in equity commitment for a new arena. That number just, as we were talking at the commercial break, that just seems insane. Two and a half off the top.
Yeah, $2.5 billion, and you haven't played a game yet. You haven't paid a salary. You haven't hired a GM, a coach, any players. Look, I love the NHL, but maybe they're playing with monopoly money. I don't know, because I just don't see it. I know that the valuations of sports franchises are going up daily almost, right? We've seen it in the WNBA. We've seen it in the NBA. We've seen it in pro football. And I get it, I guess $2 billion won't buy you a pro football team. But remember, you're still the NHL. There's 4 big sports. You be number 4, and you be number 4 for a reason. Your rights aren't getting what the other's rights are getting. Your attendance isn't getting what the other attendance guy is getting.
Yeah.
You ain't Moses Malone 4, you be on the other end of that.
Exactly. He went on to say, this is Jonathan Ledecky, that he said in 1999, he and Ted Leonsis bought the Washington Capitals, half the Washington Wizards for $200 million. I mean, that's how big the difference is. And then 26 years ago, Ledecky sold his interest for the Washington teams and what is now Capital One Arena for $85 million or something like that. But bottom line, it's insane. It sounds like this is private equity when in terms of you've got these major funds that you're looking for sure investments that right now, where for a while that wasn't the case, sports is so valuable. The package is there that's why I'm wondering if that's where this comes in terms of you've got these private equity funds saying we're going to invest in that because we know it's guaranteed to increase in value, and that much we know for sure.
Yeah, that has to be the thing because they're not taking this money and they're not putting it in the stock market. They're not putting it in other things. They're putting it into sports. But the thing think of it is, Larry, what's the old saying? Whatever goes up, got to come down.
Must come down
at some point.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, I'm not sure that is a sure thing. I'm not sure how much higher. You're telling me I'm going to buy an NHL team for $2 billion. Okay, if I want it just to play with, and I've got $2 billion that is just sitting around doing nothing, if you're that person, bless your heart, and I'll give you my address because I don't need $2 billion. Look, you got an extra 100,000, I'll take it. I'll tell you where to send it. But if you've got $2 billion that you don't care what happens to it, sure, go for it. I just don't see that you're going to be able to take $2 billion, invest in a hockey team, and in 20 years have it be worth, say, $4 billion. I don't see it. I don't.
Yeah. Well, meanwhile, speaking of $2 billion, that's kind of the magic number right now for the Big Ten deal that is on hold for the moment as reports came out Thursday night that Michigan voted no to this. It had to be unanimous, had to be 18-0 on the vote. And again, some questions we all have had. It sounds like Michigan and even USC also had some concerns about entering this kind of deal.
Yeah, they said, look, getting the money is fine, but we're not addressing why we need the money.
Yeah.
And the reason we need the money is because costs of running a big time college sports program are out of control, and you see how out of control it is. Look, Penn State fired James Franklin, right? Did that on Monday. By Thursday, Curt Cignetti gets an extension, picks up another $30-40 million from Indiana.
Yeah.
They hadn't even talked to him about the job. All there was rumors of a possibility of a maybe let's go after Curt Cignetti, and that turned into $30 or $40 million more dollars for him.
Yeah.
So let's address, and I agree with, not often I agree with Wolverines. Okay, being a Notre Dame fan, Wolverines are not our favorite people. Okay, just put it out there. But I agree with them. If you're going to do this, you better address the real reason, which is the costs are out of control.
Yeah, absolutely. We should say the ESPN reporting. No vote was taken on that conference call. They tabled it because again, Michigan has some real concerns. USC the same thing. And the thing is, you're wondering, well, gee, how in the world can the Big Ten be hurting, right? I mean, I think this is the second year of a 7-year, $7 billion deal. It runs through 2030 through the end of the decade. But there's some schools still saying, hey, we need money. Our costs are going up, et cetera, et cetera. If you are the Big Ten with those kinds of funds coming in and you can't make it happen, and with that, I mean, what does that do to, the other, look, the Big Ten, the SEC, they're the money programs, right? So what about the Big 12 and the ACC that don't make the money per school that those two conferences and their programs make?
Yeah, I don't know how you manage to get over that because like you said, what about these other smaller conferences? And we haven't even talked about the non-Power 4 conferences.
Yeah.
How do they make ends meet in this new world? And look, if you're the Big Ten and you're the SEC, as good as you are, as big as you are, you still need those other people.
Yeah.
You can break off. And if you want to just say, we're going to take our 18 here in the Big Ten and our 18 here, and we're going to do our own thing, and we're going to have our own champion and all that, that's fine. You may be able to become, but now you're the NFL light. That's all you are. You're 36 teams, just about the same, a little bigger than the NFL. You're NFL light. And you lose that college atmosphere and that college mentality. You can do that, but I think that's a gamble.
Yeah. There's this conversation that's far from over, but right now, for the moment at least, going into the weekend, it appears that private equity deal with the Big Ten is on hold, not happening anytime soon. Watch this space. Our moment of awe is up next.
Packages start at $29.99 a month with signed agreement. Restrictions apply. Speak to a representative for complete offer details. See Vivint.com for license details. Terms and conditions apply.
Homeowners, if you're looking for the best in home security and smart home technology at a price you can actually afford, we have great news. Now you can get Vivint's award-winning home security systems starting at about $1 a day. U.S. News & World Report has recognized Vivint as the best professionally installed home security system of 2022. And right now, you can get Vivint's home security technology for about $1 a day. Plus, get free professional installation from a licensed technician. Protect your home and loved ones for as low as $1 a day. Call right now for your free home security consultation.
800-613-8053. 800-613-8053. 800-613-8053. That's 800-613-8053.
Time now for a moment of awe. It was on this day back in 1920 when the Chicago Bears, then known as the Decatur Staleys, beat the Rock Island Independents 7-0 at Douglas Park in Rock Island. It was their first game as a professional team. The year before, the league changed its name to the National Football League in 1921. 1920, on this day, it all began. And look where it is right now. Wow, pretty cool stuff. Hey, we had some great guests again today. It's so awesome to have everyone come by. Ryan Weiner, Adam Lichtenstein, and Michelle Gardner. We thank you so much for joining us as well. Enjoy the games this weekend. Make it a good one, and we will see you on Monday here on the Sports IQ.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.